Matt, how is the ceasefire holding up at this hour, and how did it come together? Because obviously the fear with any two nuclear powers is escalation.
Yeah, I mean, Christina, this is a really sensitive, tenuous situation because the ceasefire isn't necessarily holding up all that well right now. We just heard from Omar Abdullah. He is the chief minister of Jammu and Kashmir, and he just posted on X about an hour ago, maybe a little more than an hour ago. He said, and he's the highest elected official in Indian-controlled Kashmir. He wrote, "What the hell just happened to the ceasefire? Explosions heard across Srinagar," that's the capital.
President Donald Trump announced the deal earlier on Truth Social, saying in part, quote, "After a long night of talks mediated by the United States, I'm pleased to announce that India and Pakistan have agreed to a full and immediate ceasefire. Congratulations to both countries on using common sense and great intelligence." On X, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio wrote that he and Vice President J.D. Vance had been working for over 48 hours to get this done, saying the two countries will now start talks on a broad set of issues at a neutral site. Pakistan's Prime Minister thanked President Trump on X as well for his leadership, saying Pakistan believes this marks a new beginning in the resolution of issues that have plagued the region.
The bulk of the president's trip is going to take place in Saudi Arabia. Quite simply, what are Saudi Arabia looking for out of this visit?
Absolutely. Good to be with you. I mean, I think the thrust of the visit is going to be about investments and deals, because that's good for Trump back home, and that's good for the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in Saudi Arabia, given his ambitious, Vision 2030 plan. So expect, I mean, I'm being told there are potentially 100 agreements that are going to be signed in everything from AI to transportation. There's going to be a big a critical minerals deal. I mean, Saudi Arabia last year, I think, estimated its reserves of these precious minerals at 2.5 trillion. So expect a big deal on that. And there's going to be obviously some defense contracts. Maybe something on nuclear cooperation, but we're not sure yet.
Yeah.
So I think the Saudis. Please go ahead.
No, I was going to say. So that's the deal making. But
Exactly.
Is there a sense that this deal making may herald or usher in some breakthroughs on the geopolitical side?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the way Saudi Arabia is looking at it. They're looking at basically these deals with President Trump in the U.S. as well as the strong intrapersonal relationship between the Crown Prince and President Trump as the foundation, as the leverage in order to advance their own vision for regional stabilization and an end to all wars, which Trump says he wants as well. So I think they're going to talk about obviously ending the war in Gaza. They're going to talk about a pathway to Palestinian statehood. They're going to talk about giving transitions in Syria and Lebanon a chance. I mean, that's how Saudi Arabia looks at it. They're going to talk about the need to continue the dialogue and the talks with Iran. And Saudi Arabia emphasized that by actually dispatching the Crown Prince's brother, the defense minister, to meet with the supreme leader himself to say, we are with you on this in terms of the need to continue the talks with the U.S. And obviously, political solution in Yemen, and we have the truce, and they want to build on that. So in a way, I mean, what Saudi Arabia is pushing is somehow I would say diametrically opposed to the Israeli strategy at the moment.
Let's talk about that with Dan. So President Trump is not stopping by Israel on this trip. What is the Israeli official perception of what is going to take place this week? How is it being treated back home?
It'll definitely be followed. I think there's no question that Israel feels on the periphery, literally geographically on the periphery, as you noted, given Trump's itinerary. Sam ably alluded to the question of sequencing. This has long been a matter of dispute between Saudi Arabia, the Middle East powerhouse, Israel, the Jewish state. They've been talking about normalizing for several years now. Israel likes to say that victory, as it defines it, victory against Hamas in Gaza, victory against other Iranian proxies, victory against Iran itself, however that might play out, is key to establishing its credibility among like-minded Arab powers, like-minded geostrategically, such as Saudi Arabia. But as Sam said, it appears the Saudis have a different view now.
We do have that breaking news overseas now. India and Pakistan announcing that they've agreed to an immediate ceasefire after both countries traded missile strikes across their border overnight. President Donald Trump was the first to announce the deal, saying on social media that the agreement is the result of talks mediated by the United States.
Now, locals along the border today were initially elated to hear the news of this ceasefire and coming out with signs like that.
We found out via social media, via Donald Trump's tweet. We are happy to see this. This is a good thing. Nobody wants war.
And John, again, things are very much developing. We're going to keep an eye on all those developments.
Ever since the attack on Hindu tourists in Kashmir last month. ABC's Lama Hassan joins me live now from our London bureau with more on this. Lama, thank you so much for being here. What do we know about this ceasefire deal right now? How long is this expected to last?
Yeah, hey Gio, look, this is really significant news. President Trump posted on Truth Social saying that after a long night of talks mediated by the US, India and Pakistan have now agreed to a full and immediate ceasefire. And then shortly after his post, we heard from the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. He also posted on social media confirming that over the past 2 days, he and Vice President J.D. Vance had brokered a full and immediate truce agreement. Rubio also said that we commend Prime Ministers Modi and Sharif on their wisdom, prudence and statesmanship in choosing the path of peace. He also added that they will have talks about a broad set of issues at a neutral site. We've heard from officials from both India and Pakistan. They've also confirmed the truce, saying that they are adhering to the ceasefire. But in a news conference, India's military officials did say that India's army, navy and armed forces will be sticking to the agreement, but they will remain vigilant. Now, we understand that India and Pakistan will be talking on May 12th. And as you said, this was something that started after an attack by what India says are Pakistani against Indian tourists last month, and that attack killed at least 26 people. But at the moment, Gio, it does look like there has been a breakthrough between the two nations.
Okay, let's hope that
this was some real whiplash all day today, because we started off this Saturday hearing from the Indian side and the Pakistani side that the other side had been targeting their air bases, their military bases, with drones and with missiles. It looked as though when we started the day that this was going to be a real escalation, and all of South Asia, really the entire world, was dreading seeing these two nuclear powers, which are now have exchanged in the past 2.5 weeks, the most fire that they have in the past several decades, that they could come to a real all-out war of the kind that we haven't seen for several years. But it looks as though, thanks to mediation by the Trump administration and by the Gulf countries, the Arabian or Persian Gulf countries, that this is now, both sides have now stepped back from the brink. But this was and remains a very dangerous situation, Christina.